podcast conversations as we share ideas, insights, and information that will educate, inform, and inspire. We will blend our knowledge of online safety and emotional awareness to help you have a better understanding of your kids' online world and their emotional responses and well-being.
Sarah, how you doing?
Well, how are you doing?
I'm doing well also. I was going to say I'm doing well as well. That just would have sounded weird, but I'm doing well also. You know, I'm a very glass half full kind of person, and I'm very appreciative for everything we have. I really am. But I sincerely miss uh, being in schools. I miss human interaction. And so we could say everything is great, but I'm just being honest and real like you. I'm well, and I'm thankful, but I'm thankful that I'm well.
Yes, I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't say that we're in lockdown right now here in Ontario, and it's tough. And our kids are online learning again, going back on Monday.
Yep.
Yay. So that's been exciting for many parents, many students, many educators. But at the same time, let's just call it like it is. Some stuff's just been hard and tough and a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be talking about what we've learned with our kids being online. What have we learned from this? What are our takeaways? What are some funny moments? What are some hard moments? Let's just have a podcast where we just talk about it all. And then we can end also with some strategies around if we end up back online again, what can we do? Or maybe if your child is fully online and they're doing that for the rest of the year, what are some strategies around reframing it when it's just tough?
Right. I think to qualify, we have to be honest in that I know most people that I know and associate with want kids in school. But it's very fair to say that there are kids who thrive in an online world. You know, the one thing I see potentially moving forward is a system whereby we have schools the way it was, quote unquote, back in the day. You know, we're going to be back as if it was 2019, sports, plays, graduation ceremonies, all that stuff. Okay. And I think that is for the majority. But we must include those that are thriving online to have the ability to do so, which is made basically a virtual school system within the school. Now, having said that, when you look at the majority kids, and you and I both have kids in school, and I think this is important because I look at opinions everywhere. And effectively, everything is an opinion when it comes to online in-class learning.
And everyone's experience is different, so their opinion is going to be different.
Correct. We're focusing on opinions as parents. There are many opinions from those who don't even have children in a school.
Don't you just love that?
Great. Appreciate that. But even if you and I didn't have kids in school, you know, the one thing that's unique to us, we deal with kids every day. It is part of what we do. So even though our kids will leave school someday, if we're doing this at that point, we're still going to be connected with kids. So we have that connection. And what have I seen? I've seen everything online. I've seen kids that love it, and I see kids that I'm bored. I want to be back in class. We have teachers that are comfortable with it, and we have teachers that I want to be back in class. I want to see my kid. I love when teachers say my kids. It shows such a connection, right? And I love that. I smile every time I hear them say, I can't wait for you to see my kids.
Because it's a family, right? It
Exactly.
becomes a community. It becomes a village.
Exactly. And, you know, we appreciate teachers for all they do. And we know it's a struggle on their end. So we can talk about this from a parental perspective. We can talk about it as an educator. We can talk about it as public speakers. But we all know the human connection. And that online, the delivery is not the same. I'll give you an example. My daughter, she has one particular teacher that her and that teacher they're awesome. She tells me, he tells them, it's just not the same. I can't wait to see you guys in class. She's not the same online because although he's motivating, he's awesome, he's doing everything he can, he still knows that they're behind the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens traditionally with a lot of high schoolers, they're logged in, but they're not tuned in. When they're in,
Totally different.
totally different,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when they're in class, there's that engagement, there's the human element. And teachers are doing amazing during this online time because they know it's a bridge to getting back into the schools
Mm-hmm.
to keep these kids motivated. And do we really have to ask teachers to motivate them? I don't think we have to ask them. I just, they want to because they care about that mind
Mm-hmm.
on the other end of the screen. But it can be difficult because not everyone is good at remote learning. Not
No.
everyone is great at educating through remote learning. Having said that, it's a bridge and we will get through it. So
Mm-hmm.
let's focus on their obviously mental well-being
Mm-hmm.
and how do we get through this time until we go back into school, which by the way, I can tell you just personally speaking, next week my daughter's excited about getting back on the bus with those friends of hers and getting to school and having lunch with her friends that don't have the same class because right now she can't have lunch with those friends who aren't in her class, but she can when she's back in school. You know, it's that element. And just the look of excitement makes me feel really good. How about you with Kai?
Social is huge.
Yeah.
It is. It's the experience. It's them learning to interact with one another. It boosts your overall feeling of energy, just feeling somebody else's energy. Of course, there's always going to be those kids that do well online. It works for their family. And I do believe moving forward, there will be that available. I mean, I did a presentation for a virtual school that has 4,300 students in that school. I don't think they're going anywhere. But for those that say, no, back in person is what makes me feel connected and thrive and how I learn, it's exciting. So Kai is pumped. We as parents are pumped. I know that for him, it has been a struggle. Yes, he gets on. Yes, he does it. Yes, but there's not this motivation. You know, if we talk about motivating, it is more difficult. I even know for myself doing in person for 16 years and then translating to online, pivoting my own business, there was a shift. Now there's definitely upswings. You know, Paul, I've learned to be pretty creative in the virtual world, which has been fun for me. You know, to say, okay, so what can I do in this virtual space? How can I connect and engage when you're not physically in the room? So for me, that's been some creative juices flowing and some fun. But at the same time, like you said, it doesn't replace physically being together.
Right.
And for our experience in our home, Kai, especially this time, was like, it's boring. And it wasn't because the lack of his teacher being great. He has an awesome teacher. But she even said, I'd rather be back in class. You know, it wasn't that the students were just feeling that way. The teacher was feeling that way as well. And so when we think about when I'm feeling bored, I actually lack motivation. And the beginning of January, I personally was so bored. I was like, here we are in lockdown. I'm not watching our son play hockey. I'm not out traveling. I'm not going to restaurants. I'm not. So that element of looking forward to something fun and exciting just felt lost. Right. So if I translate that to students that actually want to be in person, maybe not even because they love school, but they love being around other people. They love the routine of it. They like to learn a different way from their professors or teachers. Then I think, okay, so what we're maybe seeing is the lack of motivation is coming from boredom. And it's not that it's anybody's fault. It just is. It just is. It's just where we're at. So now what can we do to stimulate and move with boredom. Like, what can we focus on? What can we do? And I was even having this conversation with my husband, who for the last 2 years has been working from home during the pandemic. He used to be out at the office traveling, this, that, and the other. You know what he said to me, Paul? It's like Groundhog Day. It gets boring.
Yeah.
So sometimes saying to our kids, I get you. I'm bored too sometimes.
Right.
Right? And like, I think that is also a way for our kids to know, look you're not the only one sometimes frustrated by this or bored by this or overwhelmed by this. And then they, instead of just, saying to them, well, this is what we have, so get over it. Just do it. Stop it. Don't whine. Don't complain. Just maybe say, look, you know what? Let's complain for like 5 minutes. Let's set the timer and let's just really complain about it and talk about everything we're bored about or everything we're annoyed about. And then when the timer stops, here's the exercise to do. Think about 1 or 2 things that you're actually grateful for when it came to online learning.
Right.
Or something you appreciate. So I did this with our son. And you know what his answer was? Well, you don't, so I'm going to tell you. He looked at me and I asked him the question, what do you appreciate? Like, what's good about online learning? He said, nothing.
Honestly.
Nothing. So then I said, okay, that's fair, because if you think about it, whenever you're facing a challenging time or something you don't like, you often think there's nothing to appreciate or be grateful for.
Right.
But if you're willing to dig further, could there be something? Even in tragedy, could there be something? Maybe it's support of a person. Maybe that's what you're grateful for. So as I was prompting, we were talking further, he came up with 2 items. And now your items might be different, or your child's items might be different, but he came up with, I like being at home. I'm comfortable being at home. I like it, which I was actually kind of surprised at, because he does love being in school and riding the bus and that whole routine. So it was nice to know he was comfortable at home. And number 2, Paul, was I can go on my ice rink during the school day. If I was at school, I couldn't do that.
Right.
So instead of looking at what you don't like or what you're bored about or what you're annoyed about, let's look at that and vent about it. That's that 5 minutes.
Yep.
And then what are we going to focus on to help us be motivated to move forward? Because if you focus on everything you're bored about, it just creates more emotions of, oh, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But if you focus on, okay, what could I appreciate? What could I be grateful for? It's a mindset shift. And in turn, it shifts your emotional state, which in turn shifts your motivation level.
Yeah.
So this is a simple and effective strategy, not just for now, but for always. What you focus on actually matters.
And that's why I think structure can assist in that motivation. I know, because parents have told me, kids will roll out of bed, their eyes are half open, and they struggle to get online. Yeah. You're not ready to learn. So with this document I released a couple of weeks ago, it was which
I love and shared, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Media. Which is an enhancement from last year's document. The first thing I say is, wake up and dress like you're going to school. When I speak to my audience, I dress in my mind as if I'm driving to that school and they're going to see Paul Davis and there's a shirt, there's a blazer. You have to be mentally prepared. Brush your teeth, get food in your body, get that food gives your brain energy. You mentioned offline exercising, maybe a 5-minute YouTube video of exercising, walking the dog, doing something excellent. And then I say to them, 5 minutes before we start online learning, let's say your teacher starts at 9:00, you're on at 8:55. You're showing respect to your teacher, to your classmates. And at 9:00, welcome to your online class, and be there and be ready. There's a difference between being online and being online and there mentally. So anybody can say, I'm here, but are you tuned in? If your brain isn't ready, you're not tuned in, ready to learn. So as much as everything that we're doing online, by the way, interesting, we're online right now recording a podcast. So
there is
this is
benefit to
great.
it.
There's tons of benefit.
But there's also downfalls, and there's also ways to be prepared for it. You're right.
And you got to be prepared for it. I didn't just stumble on our podcast, say, hey, Sarah, let's go. I went out this morning. I grabbed myself a coffee. I had to do some banking, got some fresh air in my system. I came back, went, all right, I know what time I got to be on with Sarah. Get on 5 minutes early, make sure all the lighting is okay, the studio's good, ready to go. You have to be in that mindset. And it's not that it's motivating me. I'm respecting Sarah and her time and the fact that we have to create something that we're going to share. So I tell the kids the same thing. Be in that mindset, which will help in their motivation because they have a sense of belonging. I want to be respectful to my classmate. I want to be respectful to my teachers. And you know what? I don't want to be, oh, miss, what did you say? No, I want to be alert. I want to be ready. And so all that is part of it. Now, I'm hoping that that is old news because they're going back to school next week. But if we do blip and we fall into another 2-week online segment, let's keep that structure. Before online learning took off or occurred as a result of the virus, in the summertime, my girls didn't have the luxury of sleeping until noon. They still had structure during the day because I noticed a long time ago when I didn't have that structure for them because, I want them to be a kid. They still got their being a kid time. When it came to September to come back to school, wow, what a shift because they got so used to a certain structure, which really wasn't structure before September. And now they had to readjust to what it was like going back. So keep it going. It just makes a transition much, much easier.
Routine.
Absolutely.
Routine. And you know what's interesting? So if I'm now applying this to us adults, my husband noticed he has to do the same thing. He still showers as if he's going to the office. He still gets himself ready as if he's going to the audience.
Right.
The audience. No, he's not going to an audience. He would be like, no, thank you. That's for you, not me. Pack some snacks. Literally,
He packs snacks during the day?
Because
that's pretty cool.
Don't tell him I'm telling you this. Oh my goodness. Is he here? Can you hear me? I'm like, Sarah, come on.
Does he listen to the podcast, Sarah?
Well, I'm going to tell him not to listen to this one now.
All right, good. Okay, we won't talk about the snacks then. Okay.
So it's just something that kept him structured, but also kept it like something to keep the routine going. And he found he needed that, which is really good for him to have conversations with our son Kai, who's in grade 4, who sometimes doesn't understand why do I need to do that? I'm just home. Why do I need to get ready? I could be in my pajamas. Like, why do I need it? And we have lived longer than him and have a different perspective and share exactly what you're sharing. So we're not just telling him just you have to do it. We're saying, well, we're doing it too. Because when you have a routine, when you get your body alert, when you do certain items even on a checklist. So I'm making like this whiteboard of just 3 items he needs to do before he starts school so he can physically see it. He is learning a really important tool, which is getting yourself into that mental mindset. And that will help with focus. Now, I get it. Parents out there, sometimes we are pulled in every direction, especially when our child is online learning and maybe we're working from home or there's lots of different things that have been shifted in our routine. And maybe your child's feeling tons of emotions. They're like, I don't like online learning, no matter how fun the teacher's trying to make it for them. They're just disconnected from it. They're frustrated by it. They're overwhelmed by it. I didn't realize this, but my son was overwhelmed by typing. I didn't realize at first why until he said the alphabet is all mixed up. And I was like, oh, you're right, because you haven't taken typing. So it doesn't just go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? So I get it. When your child has just had it up to here, and then you're getting triggered, you're annoyed, you're frustrated. You're like, why can't you just sit down and just do the online thing? This is where we're at. And you realize you're just butting heads and it's just going from tantrum to annoyed to frustration to argument. please, parents, always choose relationship and connection,
Yes.
even over the education, because the connection and relationship is what they need from you.
Yeah, agreed.
And if we take a step back and we ground ourselves as parents in, today I choose connection, today I choose relationship, right? And then when I find I'm getting too frustrated and they're getting too frustrated, maybe we have to just take a break, and that assignment has to wait, or that has to be opted out of. Not that we're saying opt out of school, we're saying do what you can do with your child as a family, but also keep in mind that the relationship is what matters the most, because we want to be proactive with their emotional and mental well-being, and we don't want to disconnect from the relationship over arguments with getting on with your school.
Right.
Because this is a different time, wouldn't you find?
And I completely agree with the relationship piece. I was sharing a story with you about how in the past 10 years, my time off is basically, I'm like an educator. If school's closed, unless I'm doing a corporate event or law enforcement, I'm closed.
Mhm.
It's my time off. And this year, I, for the first time ever in November, took a week off. There was 2 schools that were booked, but I did this early enough. I said, can we just push it off? And I actually took my daughter out of school, and my wife took a week off, and we escaped as a family.
Mhm.
And we needed a family connection outside of juggling my daughter's school, my wife's work, my work, our 2 dogs. We needed a break.
Mhm.
And that 1 week I would do over again just because of the benefits I saw
Mhm.
as a family. I was fortunate that I had the opportunity to do that. It was well worth it. So my daughter made up her work at school. Her teachers were aware that she was going to be at school. My wife took her week off. She actually had extra work when she came back because of her work. Long story short, it was well worth it. So when you say focus on that relationship, for myself and mental health, I think it's so incredibly important. And yeah, I'm the person who always says take breaks from your screens.
Mhm.
I've subscribed to that my whole career.
Mhm.
Technology is awesome, but sometimes turn it off, put it away. Your family in front of you, best thing in the world, and it's
Mhm.
therapeutic, right? So
Mhm.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. And I had a mom actually email me the other day, and she was saying that her son was at such a heightened level with online, and it just wasn't a good day. It was just nothing the teacher said, nothing the parents said was becoming helpful. And she said we just walked away, and he started to play Hot Wheels, and then they went for a walk. And she said when we for a walk, all of a sudden his mood started to completely shift and change. And it's
Hmm.
something so simple, and she was available to do it with him, which was wonderful. And I get it that everyone's at a different impacted level when it comes to everything that's happening. But when they made that time of connection and going outside, that's what shifted the mood. Not saying, no, you need to get this done. No, sit here. No, that was just creating more heightened stress for everyone in the household.
Yeah.
So sometimes we just need to say, okay, what's really important right now?
Yeah.
We're not opting out. We're not saying you get away with being a certain behavior. We're not saying that. What we're saying is, when do we just need to focus on connection? And in turn, that will shift the mood and behavior.
Yes.
And just talking about mood and behavior, I think we have to share a few funny online stories, because in all of this, we know that there's been negative impact to lack of connection and even socialization. But I want to swing it around to a few things I've heard from people that A, are funny, or B, that have been
Okay.
like feel good stories, like feel good, like, oh, okay, yeah, there's been challenges and there's been downswings, but there's also been upswings. So
Let's
you
hear them.
ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So one, being, I was talking to this woman yesterday, and she is a before and after school carer. And she said what she's noticed from going from in-person to online, back to in-person to online, back to in-person,
Mm-hmm.
the appreciation the students have when they're in person is so much stronger than pre-pandemic.
Okay.
So that to me says, whoa, it is easy as us human beings to take for granted what we don't know we're even taking for granted. But then when it's taken away and it's brought back, there's a totally different mindset and appreciation about it. Now, the skill will become in keeping that appreciation, not letting it fizzle. So I have to be really mindful of still appreciating after we've adapted to whatever the new format is.
Right.
The other thing that I heard, which I thought was kind of funny, could be funny anyway,
Okay.
is a parent messaged me on Instagram saying, yeah, I had something happen to me. I was sending an email, a business email, and after I pressed send, I realized I was in my child's account.
Oh, snap.
So that, I mean, funny when you think back, but I guess could be.
Yeah. See, that therein lies one of the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Although funny, it actually is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm fortunate that I look at all my technology and that I've got a studio set up and it's all independent. So that can't happen. But what is the challenge? You have 1 or 2 kids at home doing online learning. And unfortunately, the family has 1 computer. Well, a parent is now at home because the kids are at home. They have to do their work remote on that 1 computer. So that is a really big issue. I think the one thing we've identified as a result of this pandemic, not everyone has technology. Not everyone has stable internet connection.
No, you're correct. It's
And
like some people get lost off the map.
Yes, and that causes anxiety. Am I missing something? Arguments at home. Yeah, so that can happen. It's a struggle. But you know what? Like you said earlier, it's okay. We learn from it. We move on. And guess what? The good news is most employers will laugh and say, were you logged into your kid's account because you're remote learning? So they make it, but listen, my wife is working from home and we have 2 dogs now. Not one. I don't know if you know this. We got another dog. That's how crazy we are in this family.
Oh, gosh.
So this dog is learning and sometimes it barks when she's on a call. And even the clients say, you're working from home, right? Everyone is adapting and they're okay with it. So let's lessen that stress, right? And not only for us as adults, but let's lessen that stress for kids and that it's going to be okay. You know, that piece that I sent that you shared kindly, I said, technology is going to fail. Things happen, but guess what? It's going to be okay. Don't stress over these little things. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through it. This is the bridge. We'll get there. And I love that story because I think that's great, actually.
Well, so then I have another story that happened to me personally. I was logging in to do a virtual presentation, as I do. And I was wondering why they weren't letting me in. I'm like, well, why aren't they letting me in? And anyway, lo and behold, I find out after I get in that I'm logged in as Kai. And my married name is a Greek name. So there's this Kai Greek name. Hello, who are you? So it just looks like I'm trying to get in on this. But I'm like, no, it's Sara Westbrook. I had to call them. I'm like, oh no, it's showing up. I didn't realize it's showing up as my son. But it's me. Can you let me in? And so there's those. Then the other kind of funny thing that happened when my son was online was his one classmate was showing their baby sibling like to the webcam, and the teacher was trying to teach a lesson, and now all of a sudden they've got this baby face, and then Kai and all his classmates are like, whoa, and now the conversation is totally taking a turn. And that teacher in that moment has to be super flexible and adaptable because she can't just get the baby off the screen. Right. So then she's got to like talk about, oh, Okay, so let's talk a little bit about siblings and babies and, kind of redirecting the conversation. So a lot of flexibility has had to be learned in these times, hasn't it? Whether we like it or not.
Well, that's where teachers are awesome in this online world because they have to ad lib and adapt. And there's a great comic that I shared on my Facebook page about a week ago where it shows what elementary school kids are doing online, which is, hey, look, here's my dad's shoe. Hey, look what I can do and all this other fun stuff. And then there's another teacher who's teaching high school saying, good morning, anybody? Can I get one person saying
Right.
good morning? And I thought, that's brilliant. And teachers were saying, that's exactly my classroom. And I'm thinking, maybe I need to start bringing my dogs into my presentation. If that's going to open up the kids' eyes and go, oh, he loves dogs. Maybe, you know what? I might do that by
So I
sitting.
was literally looking up. So on my Instagram, I'd asked what have we learned from being online? And one teacher said, as a teacher, I kept it fun yesterday and had pet day. So they shared their pets with the tricks that their pets do. And do you know, Paul, that my niece, who's in high school, that actually did very well online the first lockdown, and this time she's not stimulated by it, and it's becoming a bit harder. She said one of the things she loves is when teachers ask, not just how are you doing, but everyone right now put into the chat box your, like she said, I had toast this morning, and then she showed a slide of different toasts from not toasted to extremely toasted and said, how do you like your toast? And it's interesting. So my niece is almost 16, and she said, things like that actually get me more motivated and engaged.
Right.
So sometimes it's just finding this, not that we always want to, but this different creative way to engage one another. So if we can look at that as, not always easy, but maybe it's getting, if we're looking at the upswing, it's getting us to see a different way of doing something.
Right.
I know I've had to do that a lot even with my presentations.
Yeah, me too.
And
Sarah, next time, maybe we'll start off the podcast with our dogs. What do you think?
Yes, let's do it.
All right.
And people will have to watch the podcast because they'll be like, I can't even see the dog. We can describe it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You know what? For the people that watch this on your YouTube channel, we'll see our dogs. Otherwise, they're going to have to imagine what they look like. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
But we need to wrap up, and
yes.
that's what we know. So
yes, this is what we know. And Paul, we're going to get some special guests coming up.
Yes.
So we're excited about that.
Yep.
So until next time, this is what we know. And if you want us to talk more about what we know on a specific topic, let us know what you want to know, and we'll tell you what we know on that. Does that make sense?
I bet you if I asked you to do that all over again, it would come out completely different. So let's just leave it at that.
Tell us what you want us to know about what we know that you don't know, that you want to know what we know. Boom.
You know what? Exactly. I was just going to say that if you had a mic, it should have been dropped.
Oh, I do. What we know.
I noticed you didn't drop it. You caught it because you didn't want to break it.
Well,
see you next time, Sarah.
See you next time. Until then.
Thank you for joining us.